Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Where were we? Chapter 2. Hope everyone's doing good. Good evening, Twitch, Kick, and YouTube. Oh shit, I haven't changed my stuff on Kick. Hold up. One moment. There we go. Categories have been changed. There we go. Hello, good evening. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hope everyone's doing well. Sorry for no carving today. My mum couldn't watch the baby today, so I had to with my partner as well. How are we? So we've gotten through. We got through one chapter so far in the fellowship. So all we're pretty much doing right now is you going. Oh, Ed's here. Going through one chapter at a time. Joe Colt, how you doing, bro? Hope you're doing good, my bro. Geez, the chapters are quite long, eh? I'm just sifting through it now, and holy hecker. Joe! Ed, how are you, my bro? So to those that don't know, Joe 5-headed, to those that don't know, I've been getting into TCG lately. Getting into the old TCG. Bix, thank you very much for the follow. And good evening to everyone on YouTube as well. She's getting pretty cold over here in Aotearoa now. Evening to Lil C, Chef, Boom, and Justice Seal as well. Good, my bro. How are you? Yeah, all good, my bro. All good. Although, I would love to have done some Whakairo today, but wasn't able to today. I'll most likely be reading today and tomorrow, if I'm gonna be completely honest. How you doing? Yeah, all good, my bro. All good. Yeah, just really wanting to get back outside. That's pretty much the gist of it all. But other than that, yeah, I'm all good. Just been trying to do some resets on the old Pokemon Fire Red. No shiny yet. No shiny starter yet for me. I started doing yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. But yeah, nothing so far. You get any good pulls or not? Oh no, reading Lord of the Rings. What's wrong with reading Lord of the Rings? What's up, comic? We finished The Hobbit a while ago. So we got through that one and now we've moved on to the next one. I'll most likely do that all the way to Return of the King. I need to check out some of the announcements today from Xbox as well, but I think I'll what's the YouTube? Brox. Just the same as the username. Okay. Here we go. So we're on chapter 2. We're on chapter 2 now. The Shadow of the Past. So last time, as you all know, Bilbo was getting ready for his party. And then same thing as the movie. He done the disappearing act and pretty much said he wants to gap it and go on another adventure before he gets old. And now we're back, and I think this is when what's his name? Gandalf comes back to talk to me. Let me put our thing on. Boom, there it is. Yeah, this is where Gandalf returns to ask him about said ring. So yeah, chapter 2, The Shadow of the Past. The talk did not die down in the 9 or even 99 days. The second disappearance of Mr. Bilbo Baggins was discussed in Hobbiton and indeed all over the Shire for a year and a day, and was remembered much longer than that. It became a fireside story for young hobbits and eventually Mad Baggins, who used to vanish with a bang and a flash and reappear with bags of jewels and gold. Became a favourite character of a legend and lived long after all the true events were forgotten. But in the meantime, the general option in the neighbourhood was that Bilbo, who had always been rather cracked, had at last gone quite mad, and had run off into the blue. There he had undoubtedly fallen into a pool or a river and come to a tragic but hardly an untimely end. The blame mostly laid on Gandalf. If only that dratted wizard would leave young Frodo alone, perhaps he'll settle down and grow some hobbit sense, they said. And to all the appearance that the wizard did leave Frodo alone, and he did settle down, for the growth of hobbit sense was not very noticeable indeed. He had once begun to carry on Bilbo's reputations for oddity. He refused to go into mourning, and the next year he gave a party in honour of Bilbo's 112th birthday, which he called a which he called a 100-weight feast, but that was a short of a mark. For 20 guests were invited there, and several meals at which it snowed food and rained drinks, as hobbits say. Some people rather shocked, but Frodo kept up the custom of giving Bilbo's birthday party year after year until they got used to it. He said that he did not did not think Bilbo was dead. When they asked, "Where is he then?" he shrugged his shoulders. He lived alone, as Bilbo had done, but he had a good many friends, especially among the young hobbits, mostly descendants of old Tug, who had children been fond of Bilbo and often in and out of Bag End. Folko Boffin and Fred Gabolga were two of these, but the closest friends were Peregrine Tug, usually called Pippin, and Mary Brandybuck. His real name is Merierok, but that was seldom remembered. Frodo went tramping over the Shire with them, but more often he wandered by himself. And to the amazement of sensible folk, he was sometimes seen far from home and walking in the hills and woods under the starlight. Merry and Pippin suspected that he visited the elves at times, as Bilbo had done. How you, comic? Hope you're doing good, my bro. You get any packs lately, Ed? As time went on, people began to notice that Frodo also showed signs of good preservation. Outwardly, he retained the appearance of a robust and energetic hobbit just out of his tweens. Some folk have all the luck, they said. But it was not until Frodo approached the usual more sober age of 50 that they began to think it queer. Frodo himself, after the first shock, found that being his own master at the Mr. Baggins of Bag End was rather pleasant. For some years he was quite happy and did not worry about the future, but half unknown to himself that he regret that he had not gone with Bilbo was steadily growing. What's up, silly Billy? He found himself wondering at times, especially in the autumn, about the wild lands and the strange visions of the mountains that he had never seen came into his dreams. He began to say to himself, "Perhaps I shall cross the river myself one day." To which the other half of his mind always replied, "Not yet." So it went on until his 40s were running out, and his 50th birthday was drawing near. 50 was a number that he had felt was somehow significant or ominous. It was at any rate at the age that the adventures had suddenly befallen Bilbo. Frodo began to feel restless, and old paths seemed too well trodden. He looked at maps and wondered what lay beyond the edges. Maps made in the Shire showed mostly white spaces beyond its borders. He took to the wandering further afield and more often by himself, and Merry and his other friends watched him anxiously. Often he was walking and talking with the strange wayfarers that began at this time to appear in the Shire. Okay, so man's starting to get bored, eh? Starting to get bored. He's ready to go out there. There are rumours of strange things happening in the world outside, and as Gandalf had not at the time appeared or sent any messages for several years, Frodo gathered all the news he could. Elves who had seldom walked in the Shire could now be seen passing westward through the woods in the evenings. Passing and not returning, but they were leaving Middle-earth and were no longer concerned with its troubles. There were, however, dwarves on the roads. Unusual turns page. Unusual numbers. The ancient east-west road ran through the Shire to its end at the Grey Havens, and dwarves had always used it on their way to their mines in the Blue Mountains. They were the hobbits' chief source of news from distant parts. If they wanted any, as a rule, dwarves said little and hobbits asked no more. But now Frodo often met strange dwarves of far countries. Seeking refuge in the west, they were troubled. In some spoke in whispers of the enemy and of the land of Mordor. We're picking up now. They named it the hobbits only knew in legends of the dark past, like a shadow in the background of their memories, but it was ominous and disquieting. It seemed that the evil power of Mirkwood had been driven out by the White Council only to appear in greater strength in the old strongholds of Mordor. The Dark Tower had been rebuilt, it was said. From there the power was spreading far and wide, and away far east and south there were wars and growing fear. Orcs were multiplying again in the mountains. Trolls were abroad, no longer dull-witted but cunning and armed with dreadful weapons. And there were murmured hints of creatures more terrible than all these, but they had no name. Little of all this, of course, reached to the ears of ordinary hobbits, but even the deafest and most stay-at-home began to hear queer tales, and those whose business took them to the borders saw strange things. The conversations in the Green Dragon at Bywater, one evening in the spring of Frodo's 50th year, showed that even the comfortable heart of the Shire rumours had been heard. Though most hobbits still laughed at them, Sam Gamgee was sitting in the corner near the fire, and opposite to him was Ted Standyman, the miller's son, and there were various other rustic hobbits listening to their talk. "Queer things you do hear these days, to be sure," said Sam. "Ah," said Ted. "You do if you listen, but I can hear fireside tales and children's stories at home if I want to."
No doubt. You can, retorted Sam. And I dare say there more truth is some of them than you reckon. Who invented the stories anyway? Take dragons now. No, thank ye, said Ted. I won't. I heard to tell them when I was a youngster, but there's no call to believe in them now. There's only one dragon in Bywater, and that's green, he said, getting a general laugh. All right, said Sam, laughing with the rest. But what are these tree men? These giants, as you might call them. They do say that one bigger than a tree was seen upward beyond the North Moors not long back. Who's they? My cousin's Hal, for one. He works with Mr. Boffin at Overhill and goes up to the North Farthing for hunting. He saw one. Says he did, perhaps. Your Hal's always saying he's seeing things. Maybe he's seeing things that ain't there. But this one was as big as an elm tree and walking 7 yards to a stride, if it was an inch. Then I bet it wasn't an inch, but he saw was an elm tree as like as not. But the one was walking, I tell you, and there ain't no elm tree on the northern moors. Then Hal can't have seen one, said Ted. There was some laughing and clapping, and the audience seemed to think that Ted had scored a point. All the same, said Sam. You can't deny the others besides our harvests have seen the queer folks crossing the Shire. Crossing it? Mind you, there are more and then turn back at the borders. The bounders have never been seen before. And I've heard all the elves are moving west. They do say that they're going to the harbours. Out way beyond the White Towers, Sam waved his arm vaguely. Neither he nor any of them knew how far it was to the sea, past the old towers beyond the western borders of the Shire, but it was an old tradition that away over there stood the Grey Havens, from which at times elven ships set sail, never to return. They are sailing over the sea. They are going to the west and leaving us, said Sam, half chanting the words, shaking his head sadly and solemnly, but Ted laughed. Well, this isn't anything new. If you believe the old tales, then I don't see what it matters to me or you. Let them sail. But I warrant you haven't seen them doing it, nor anyone else in the Shire. Well, I don't know, said Sam. Thoughtfully, he believed he had once seen an elf in the woods, and still hoped to see more one day. Of all the legends that he had heard in the early years, such fragments of tales and half-remembered stories about the elves as the hobbits knew had always moved him most deeply. There are more some even in these parts. As now the fair folk had got news of them, he said, There's Mr. Baggins now, that I work for. He told me that they were sailing and he knows a bit about elves. And old Mr. Bilbo knew more. And old Mr. Bilbo knew more. Many's that the talk I had with him when I was a little lad. Oh, they're both cracked, said Ted. Leastways, old Bilbo was cracked, and Frodo's cracking. Well, friends, I'm off home. Your good health. He drained his mug, and he went out noisily. Sam sat silent and said no more. He had a good deal to think. Blips page. He had a good deal to think about. So was Frodo like old as shit?
before he left. Seems like he was pretty old before they eventually, started the journey. That's what it looks like anyway. Well, that's the vibe I'm getting. Like, Frodo must have been, like, pretty old before he genuinely set out to... Where did they go first? Where did Sam and Frodo went to the Prancing Pony first, right? And then Gandalf got intercepted. And then they were making their way to Rivendell, I think. Is that right, guys? I genuinely can't remember. Hey, much love for being in there too, Colt. Thank you, brother. Yeah, now that I think about it, I can't remember. I think I need to rewatch the movies to get the gist of it again. You gonna play GTA today? No. No, I won't be playing GTA today. This evening's just gonna be reading as we do. We do one chapter, and then that'll be GG's. I'll most likely be reading again tomorrow too. I can't carve tomorrow because my mum can't watch baby because one of my one of my one of my grands passed away. Wait, was she? No, she'll be. Geez, I don't know. Yeah, one of my grands passed away today. But yeah, everyone can go and see her tomorrow because she's a J dub. Okay, carrying on. For one thing, there was a lot to do up at Bag End Garden, and he would have a busy day tomorrow. If the weather cleared, the grass was growing fast, but Sam had more on his mind than gardening. After a while, he sighed, got up, and went out. It was early April and the sky was not clearing after heavy rain. The sun was down, and a cool, pale evening was quietly fading into the night. He walked home under the early stars, through Hobbiton and up the hill, whistling softly and thoughtfully. It was just as this time that Gandalf reappeared after his long absence. For 3 years after the party he had been away. Then he paid Frodo a brief visit, and after taking a good look at him, he went on off again. During the next year or two, he had turned up fairly often, coming unexpectedly after dusk, and going without warning before sunrise. He would not discuss his own business and journeys and seemed chiefly interested in small news about Frodo's health and doings. Then suddenly the visit had ceased. It was over 9 years since Frodo had seen or heard of him, and he began to think about the wizard. Would never return and given up all interest in hobbits. But that evening, as Sam was walking home and twilight was fading, there came the once familiar tap on the study window. Frodo welcomed his old friend with surprise and great delight. They looked hard at one another. "Ah, well, said Gandalf. "You look the same as ever, Frodo." "So do you," Frodo replied. But secretly he thought that Gandalf looked older and more careworn. He pressed him for news of himself and the wide world. Soon they were deep in talk, and they stayed up far into the night. Oh, so we're getting to the nitty-gritty part where they start talking about the ring, probably. Next morning, after a late breakfast, the wizard was sitting with Frodo by the open window of the study. A bright fire was on the hearth, and the sun was warm, and the wind was in the south. Everything looked fresh, and now green of spring was shimmering in the fields and on the tips of trees' fingers. Gandalf was thinking of spring nearly 8 years before.
when Bilbo had ran out of begging with a handkerchief. His hair was perhaps whiter than it had been then, and his beard and eyebrows were perhaps longer, and his face was more lined with care and wisdom, but his eyes were as bright as ever, and he smoked and blew smoke rings with the same vigour and delight. He was smoking now in silence, for Frodo was sitting still, deep in thought. Even in the light of the morning he felt the dark shadow of tidings that Gandalf had brought. At last he broke the silence. "Last night you began to tell strange things about the ring," Gandalf said, "and then you stopped. But because you said the matters were best left until daylight, do you think you had better finish now? You say the ring is dangerous, far more dangerous than I guessed. In what way?" "In many ways," answered the wizard. "It is far from powerful than I dared to think at first. So powerful that in the end it would utterly overcome anyone or mortal race who possessed it. It would possess him." In Eregion, long ago many elves were made, magic rings as you call them, and they were, of course, of various kinds, some more potent than and some less. The lesser rings were only essays in the crafts before it was full grown, and to the elven smiths they were but trifles, yet still to my mind dangerous for mortals. But the great rings, the rings of power, they were perilous. Immortal, Frodo. Oh, Caesar, thank you very much for the raid, my bro. Welcome, bro. Crazy stream at the moment. We're just having a reading stream. We're reading this here. We're reading the Fellowship. The Fellowship of the Ring, my bro. And we usually go through a chapter every now and then. So we're just on chapter 2. Hope you're doing good, my bro. Hope you had a wonderful stream too. Where was I? Here. And if he often uses the ring to make himself invisible, he fades. He becomes in the end invisible permanently, and walks in the twilight under the eye of the dark power that rules the rings. Yes, sooner or later. Later if he is strong or well-meaning to begin with, but neither strength nor good purpose will last. Sooner or later the dark power will devour him. How terrifying, said Frodo. There was another long silence, the sound of Sam Gamgee cutting the lawn in from the garden. Hey, I hope you had a great day, and I love a good story time. Hey, thank you, man. Yeah, today was all good, my bro. All good day today. Sorry I couldn't do any Whakairo today, my bro. Just some stuff came up, and it's got some stuff that I need to sort out tomorrow too. But we'll most likely be reading again tomorrow. But thank you, man. Okay, where are we? How long have you known this? Asked Frodo at length. And how much did Bilbo know? Bilbo knew more than he told you, I am sure, said Gandalf. He would certainly never have passed on to you anything that he thought would be a danger. Even though I promised to look after you, he thought that the ring was very beautiful and very useful at need. And if anything was wrong or queer, it was himself. He said that it was growing on his mind, and he was always worrying about it. But he did not suspect that the ring itself was to blame. Though he had found out the coming thing needed looking after, it did not seem always the same size or weight. It shrank or expanded in an odd way, and might suddenly slip off the finger where it had been tight. Yes, he warned me of that in his letter, said Frodo. so I have always kept it on its chain. Very wise, said Gandalf. But for his long life, Bilbo never connected in with the ring at all. He took all the credit for himself, and he was very proud of it. Though he was getting restless and hello, Katori, did I say that right? He was getting restless and uneasy. Thin and stretched, he said, a sign that the ring was getting control. Jeepers. How long have you known all this? Asked Frodo again. Known, said Gandalf. I have known much that only the wise know, Frodo. But if you mean know about this ring, well, I still do not know, one might say. That is the last test to make, but I no longer doubt my guess. When did I first begin to guess? He mused. Searching back in memory, let me see. It was in the year that the White Council drove the Dark Power from Mirkwood, just before the Battle of the Five Armies, and Bilbo found his ring. A shadow fell on the heart. Then, though I do not know yet what I feared, I wondered often how Gollum came by a great ring as plainly as it was. Two names, The Hobbit. We finished reading The Hobbit a while ago. We just jamming the Fellowship now. As plainly as it was, that is the least was clear from the first. Then I heard Bilbo's strange story on how he had won it, and I could not believe it. When I at last got the truth out of him, I saw that once he had been trying to put his claim to the ring beyond doubt. Much like Gollum with his birthday present, the lies were too much alike for my comfort. Clearly the ring had an unwholesome power that set to work on its keeper at once. That was the first real warning I had that all was not well. I told Bilbo often that such rings were better left unused, but he resented it, and soon got angry. There was little else that I could do. I could not take it from him without doing greater harm, and I had no right to do so anyway. I could only watch and wait. I might perhaps have consulted Saruman the White, but something always held me back. Who is he? Asked Frodo. I have never heard of him before. Maybe not, answered Gandalf. Hobbits are or were no concern of his. Yet he is great among the wise. He is the chief of my order and the head of the council. His knowledge is deep, but his pride has grown with it, and that takes ill any meddling. The law of the elven rings, great and small, in his province he has long studied it, seeking the lost secrets of their making. But when the rings were debated in the council, all that he would reveal to us of his ring law told against many fears. So many doubts slept, but uneasily. Still I watched and I waited. Bilbo's story is so sad. Yeah. I didn't expect, to see so much about Bilbo and the Hobbit. Like, they missed out so much, eh? They missed out quite a lot. Lord of the Rings time is your first time reading the books. Yeah, pretty much Flame, my first time. So we started on the Hobbit first, now we've moved into the Fellowship. So yeah, we just started the Fellowship, and keen to see what happens. Because obviously the movies don't show, as much as you'd hope. But yeah, even with The Hobbit, man, they missed out so much. Bro, Tolkien's words are hard, eh? They're hard to learn, bro. Especially for someone that, didn't really give a shit about reading in school. When it came to the books, bro, I usually got the ones with the cool pictures, aka all the Pokemon books. Okay. It all seemed well with Bilbo. What chapter are you on? Chapter 2. And years passed, yes, they passed, and they seemed to not touch him. He showed no signs of age. The shadow fell on me again. But I said to myself, after all there comes of long-lived family on his mother's side, there is time yet. Wait. And I waited. Until the night when he left this house, he said, and did things then that filled me with fear that no words of Saruman could allay. I knew at last that something dark and deadly was at work, and I had spent most of my years since then finding out the truth of it. Will you watch or read? What's that? Will you watch or read the Silmarillion? What's that? Is that another movie of his? Obviously, it's a book. What's the Silmarillion thing about? There wasn't a permanent harm done, was there? Asked Frodo. Anxiously, he would get all right in time, wouldn't he? But able to rest in peace, I mean. He felt better once, said Gandalf, but there is only one power in the world that knows all about the rings and their effects. And as far as I know, there is no power in the world that knows all about hobbits among the wise. I am the only one that goes into hobbit lore, an obscure branch of knowledge but full of surprises. Soft as butter they can be, and yet sometimes as tough and old as tree roots. I think it is likely that some would resist the rings far longer than most of the wise would believe. I don't think you need to worry about Bilbo. Of course he possessed the ring for many years and used it, so it might take a long while for the influence to wear off, before it was safe for him to set it again, or to see it again, for instance. Otherwise he might live on for years quite happily, just stop as he was when he parted with it. For he gave it up in the end of his own accord, an important point. Now, I was not troubled about dear Bilbo any more. Once he had let the thing go, it is for you that I feel responsibly. Ever since Bilbo left, I have been deeply concerned about you, and about all these charming, absurd, helpless hobbits. It would be a grievous blow to the world if the dark power overcame the Shire. If all your kind, jolly, stupid bulgars, hornblowers, boffins, brace girdles, and the rest, not to mention the ridiculous Bagginses, became enslaved. Frodo shuddered. But why should we? He asked. And why should he want such slaves? To tell you the truth, replied Gandalf, I do not believe that hitherto mark you, he has entirely overlooked the existence of hobbits. You should be thankful, but your safety has passed. He does not need you, and hobbits are miserable slaves who please him far more than hobbits happy and free. There is such a thing as malice and revenge. Revenge? Said Frodo. Revenge for what? I still don't understand what all this is to do with Bilbo and myself and our ring. It has everything to do with it, said Gandalf. You do not know the real peril yet, but you shall. I was not sure of it myself when I was last here, but this time the time has come to speak. Give me the ring for a moment. Frodo took it from his breeches pockets, where he was clasped to a chain that hung from his belt. He fastened it and handed it slowly to the wizard, It felt suddenly very heavy, as if either it or Frodo himself was in some way reluctant for Gandalf to touch it. Oh, here we go. Man, it must be nice being a hobbit. Good food. I mean, yeah, man, they live in a hole their whole life and they're like big chilling. They're like big chilling is. Believe it's a prequel to The Hobbit? What? So these what, like a prequel to The Hobbit? So who do they even follow in The Hobbit then? The Hobbit is a prequel to The Lord of the Rings. Yeah, but the bro was saying there's another one before The Hobbit. Yeah, I know. I know The Hobbit. We finished reading it. Day 9 Foot's my favorite character. I haven't read it, but it's a prequel to The Hobbit. Interesting. Interesting. The Emma's the Rings of Power. Yeah, I haven't seen that. Is it any good? Because what's his name is in there? Durin's in there. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I know it kind of shows like how old mate kind of reveals himself to everyone, eh? I think Rings of Power is pretty good. That predate The Hobbit. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was thinking of watching it, but I wasn't too sure. Interesting. Interessante. Okay, that's cool. Maybe I should get into it then. Yeah, because I remember seeing one clip on YouTube of, that elf with the short hair facing off against Durin in a boulder splitting contest. That's the show, right? And then Sauron reveals himself on a trash looking boat on a lake. That's it, eh? Is that it? I mean, the boat looks pretty shitty, I'm not gonna lie. Some characters like Galadriel are several thousand years old, so they are featured in the stories predating The Hobbit. It includes the creation of the rings, but also the stories of why the elves are in Middle Earth to begin with. Supposed to be in Valinor the Undying. True! Got us a little bit of a hint while they were there. Settling? Colonization? Why were they there? I'm gonna watch it, but you got us the gist of it. Were they looking for, new routes to smoke? Why were they there? That's something an elf would do, eh? In my opinion. I'm waiting for the answer, then I'll start reading again. Most of them, this was a quest. Their gods forbade them to begin where they hunted the Dark Lord. Morgoth. Oh, okay, so they were, true. They want a bit of a questy lala. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think I need to watch the show now. Because it's like it'll be pretty cool. I probably won't read that thing yet, because, we still got 2 more other fat ass books to get through this one. After this one. Okay, carrying on. Gandalf held it up. It looked to be made of pure and solid gold. Can you see any markings? He said. No, said Frodo, there are none. It is quite plain and never shows the scratch or sign of wear. Well then, look. To Frodo's astonishment and distress, the wizard threw it suddenly into the middle of the glowing corner of the fire. Frodo gave a cry and groped for the tongs, but Gandalf held him back. Keep in mind, artistic license throughout the movie and shows can be... Yeah. But like how they didn't show that cool part in the book when Bilbo leaves. He leaves the mountain and then he looks back. And then he says bye to Thorin, Philly, and Killy. That was a mean part in the book, I ain't gonna lie. Wait, he said in a commanding voice, giving Frodo a quick look from under his bristled brows. Wait, he said in a commanding voice, giving Frodo a quick look. Oh, sorry. No apparent change came over the ring. After a while, Gandalf gave up, closed the shutters outside the window, and drew the curtains. The room became dark and silent. Though the clack of Sam's shears, now nearer to the window, could still be heard faintly from the garden. For a moment the wizard stood looking at the fire, then he stooped and removed the ring from the hearth with the tongs. And once he picked it up, Frodo gasped. It is quite cool, said Gandalf. Take it. Frodo received it on his shrinking palm. It seemed to have become thicker and heavier than ever. Hold it up, said Gandalf, and look closely. As Frodo did, he now saw fine lines, finer than the finest pen strokes, running along the ring, outside and inside, lines of fire that seemed to form letters of flowing script. They shone piercingly bright and yet remote, as if out of great depth. Hey, what's up, Reality Bites? How you doing? So we all know the markings on the ring, eh? I'm going to show them anyway. Those ones there. You know what would be funny? If it, actually, I know memes weren't a thing back then, but it would be funny if it turned out to be a meme. Speaking of smoke, it's funny, there's an entire section in the booze dedicated just for pipe weed. In the book? Oh, true. I mean, it makes sense, eh, bro? Gandalf tokes up through the whole franchise, eh? Finishes a big ass battle, loads up his pipe and winds down. I cannot read the fiery letters, said Frodo, in a quivering voice. No, said Gandalf, but I can. The letters are Elvish of ancient mode, but the language is that of Mordor, which I would not utter here. But this is the common tongue, and what it is said close enough. One ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all, and into the darkness bind them. It is only 2 lines of a verse long known in elven lore. 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky. 7 for the dwarf lords in the halls of stone. 9 for mortal men doomed to die. 1 for the Dark Lord and his dark throne in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all. 1 ring to find them. 1 ring to bring them all into the darkness to bind them in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. Is that what the whole thing means? He paused, then he said slowly in a deep voice, This is the Master Ring, the 1 ring to rule them all. This is the 1 ring that he lost many ages ago to the great weakening of his power. He greatly desires it, but he must not get it. Frodo sat silent, motionless. Fear seemed to stretch out a vast hand like a dark cloud rising in the east, and looming up to engulf him, the ring, he stammered. How on earth did it come to me? Ah, said Gandalf. That is a very long story. The beginnings lie back in the Black Years, which only the Lore Masters now remember. If I were to tell you the tale, we should still be sitting here when spring has passed into winter. But last night I told you of Sauron the Great, the Dark Lord. They left his hold in Mirkwood and returned to his ancient fastness in the Dark Tower of Mordor. The name even you hobbits have heard, like a shadow on the borders of old stories. Always after a defeat and a respite, the shadow takes another shape and grows again. I wish I need not have happened in my time, said Frodo. So do I, said Gandalf, and so do all have lips which see such times. But this is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. And already, Frodo, our time is beginning to look black. The enemy is fast becoming very strong. His plans are far from ripe, I think. But they are ripening. We shall be hard to put to it. We should be very hard to put to it. Even if we were not for these dreadful chants. We are we. We all good? Yourself and the partner be prospering, I hope. Yeah, we're doing all good, my bro. Doing all good. I imagine the text really just says elves suck or something. Yeah, that'll be cool if it said that. Elves are actually trash. That'll be funny if that's what, the markings on the rings actually said in some way, shape, or form. Kia ora, bro. Love you, mahi. I might start carving soon and you and my inspo. Yeah, kia kaha, bro. Go hard. And have fun. Koe te mea nui. The enemy still lacks one thing to give him strength and knowledge to beat down all resistance. Breaks the last defense and cover all the lands in the second darkness. He lacks the one ring. The three fairest of them all the elf lords hid from him, and his hand never touched them or sullied them. Hey, happy birthday, Wolfo. Happy birthday, my bro. 7 the dwarf kings possessed, but 3 he has recovered, and the others that the dragons have consumed. 9 he gave to mortal men proud and great, and now ensnared them. Long ago they fell under the domination of the One. So those are all the witch kings, eh? The screamy guys. I thought they were pretty annoying in the movie, eh? Just from all the bloody screams. That was annoying, bro. And they became ring wraiths, shadows under his great shadow, his most terrible servants, long ago. It is many of a year since the 9 walked abroad, yet who knows? As the shadow grows once more, they too may walk again. But come, we will not speak on such things even in the morning of the Shire. So it is now. The 9 had gathered to himself, the 7 also, or else they are destroyed. The 3 are hidden still, but that on but that no longer troubles him. He only needs the one. For he made the ring himself, it is his, and he let a great part of his own former power pass into it, so that he could rule all the others. If he recovers it, then he will command them all again, wherever they be, even the 3, and all that has been wrought with them will be laid bare, and he will be stronger than ever. I'm gonna switch it. Yeah, you're all good, bro. You're all good. If YouTube is lagging a bit, shirt, that's not good. And this is the dreadful chance, Frodo. He believed that the One had perished, that the elves had destroyed it, as should have been done. But he knows now that it has not perished, that it has been found. So he is seeking it, and all this thought it is bent on it is his great hope and our great fear. Why? Why wasn't it destroyed? Cried Frodo. And how did the enemy even come to lose it? If he was so strong, and it was so precious to him, he clutched the ring in his hand as if there were already dark fingers stretched out to seize it. It was taken from him, said Gandalf. The strength of the elves to resist him was greater long ago, and not all men were estranged from them. The men of the Westerns came to their aid. This is the chapter of ancient history which it might be good to recall. For there was sorrow then too, and gathered dark, but great valour and great deeds there were not wholly vain. One day perhaps I will tell you all the tale, or you shall hear it all told in full by one who knows best. But for the moment, and most of all you need to know, is how the things came to you. And that will be tale enough. This is all that I will say. It was Gil-galad, Elven King, and Elendil of Westerness who overthrew Sauron. Though they themselves perished in the deed, and Isildur, Elendil's son, cut the ring from Sauron's hand, and took it for his own. Then Sauron was vanquished, and his spirit fled, and was hidden for long years, until his shadow took shape again in Mirkwood. But the ring was lost. It fell into the great river Anduin and vanished from Isildur. For Isildur was marching north along the east banks of the river, and near the Gladden Fields he was waylaid by the orcs of the mountains, and almost all folks were slain. He leapt into the waters, but the ring slipped from his fingers as he swam, and the orcs saw him and killed him with arrows. Gandalf paused. There was a dark pool amongst all, amid the Gladden fields. He said, the ring passed out the knowledge and legend, and even so much of its history is known now only to few, and the council of the wise could rediscover no more, but at last I can carry on the story, I think. Long after, but still very long ago, there lived by the banks of the great river on the edge of Wilderness a clever-handed and quiet-footed little people. I guess they were of hobbit kind, akin to the fathers of the Stuarts, for they loved the river, and often swam in it, and made little boats or reeds. There was among them with them a family of high repute, for it was large and wealthier than most, and it was ruled by a grandmother of the folks, stern and wise in old law, such as they had. The most inquisitive and curious-minded of the family was called Smeagol. He was interested in the roots and the beginnings. He dived into deep pools. He burrowed under trees, growing plants. He tunneled into green mounds, and he ceased to look up at the hills tops and the leaves on the trees, all the flowers opening in the air. His head and his eyes were downward. He had a friend called Dealgul, of similar sort, sharper-eyed, but not so quick and strong. On a time they took a boat and went down to the Gladden fields, where there were great beds of iris and flowering reeds. There Smeagol got out and went nosing around the banks, but Deagle sat in the boat and fished. Suddenly a great fish took his hook, and before he knew it, there he was. He was dragged out and down into the water to the bottom. There he let go of his line, for he thought he saw something shining in the riverbed. And holding his breath, he grabbed it. Then up he came spluttering, with weeds in his hair and hands full of mud, and he swam to the bank, and behold, when he washed the mud away, there in his hand lay a beautiful golden ring, and shone and glittered in the sun, so that his heart was glad. But Smeagol had been watching him from behind a tree, And as Deagle gloated over the ring, Smeagol comes softly over behind him. Give us that, Deagle, my love, said Smeagol over his friend's shoulder. Why? Said Deagle. Because it's my birthday, my love, and I want it, said Smeagol. I don't care. I have given you a present already, more than I could afford. I found this and I'm going to keep it. Oh, are you indeed, my love, bro? Was this like Smeagol's boo thing or what? And he caught Deagle by the throat and strangled him, because the gold looked so bright and beautiful that he put the ring on his finger. No one ever found out what had become of Deagle. He was murdered far from home, and his body was cunningly hidden. Wonder where he threw it, eh? Not in the river, I reckon. But Smeagol returned alone and found that none of his family could see him. When he was wearing the ring, he was very pleased with his discovery, and he concealed it. And he used it to find out secrets, and he put his knowledge to crooked and malicious uses. He became sharp-eyed and keen-eared for all the hurtful. The ring had given him powers according to his stature. It is not to wondered at what he became very unpopular and was shunned when visible. By all things relations they kicked him, and he bit their feet. He took to thieving and going about muttering to himself and gruggling in his throat, so that they called him Gollum and cursed him, and they told him to go far away, and his grandmother, desiring peace, expelled him from the family and turned him out of her hole. Damn, bro got kicked out. Unlucky use. He wandered in loneliness, weeping a little for the hardness of the world. Thank you very much. Hey, Betty! Thank you, my bro. Thank you for the 16 months, my brother. Hope you're doing good, my bro. Kia ora, kia ora, kia ora. Been a sub for the evening, my bro. Hope you've been well and looking after yourself, my bro. Ngā mihi nui. Okay, where were we? That's right, so he wandered and he journeyed up the river till he came to a stream that flowed down from the mountains. And he went that way. He caught fish in deep pools with invisible fingers, and he ate them raw. One day it was very hot, as he was bending over the pool. He felt the burning on his back, on his head, and the dazzling light from the water. It pained his wet eyes. He wondered at it, for he had almost forgotten about the sun. Then for the last time he looked up and he shook his fist at her. Yo, what up, Jizu? Just firing up the Kindle Lord of the Rings so I can read along. Oh, cheer, my bro. Cheer. Yeah, we're only on chapter 2. So we just do one chapter stream now and again, my bro. But it kind of goes to show that, you know, the movies don't really put a lot of it in, eh? They don't really put a lot of it in. But as he lowered his eyes, he saw far ahead the tops of the misty mountains out of which the stream came. And he thought suddenly it would be cool and shady under those mountains. The sun could not watch me there. The roots of those mountains must be roots indeed. There must be great secrets buried there which have not been discovered since the beginning. So he journeyed by night up into the highlands, and he found a little cave out which the dark stream ran. And he wandered his way like a little maggot into the heart of the hills and vanished out of all knowledge. The ring went into the shadows with him, and even the marker. When his power had begun to grow again, he could learn nothing of it. Would have been 6 hours long, bro. I wouldn't mind watching a 6 hour long one, eh? Gollum called Frodo. Gollum, Do you mean that this is the very golem creature that Bilbo met? How loathsome. I think it is a sad story, said the wizard, and it might have happened to others, to some hobbits that have even to some hobbits that I have known. I can't believe that Gollum was connected with hobbits, however distantly, said Frodo with some heat. What an abominable notion. It is true all the same, said Gandalf. About their origins, at any rate, I know more that the hobbits do themselves, and even Bilbo's story suggests the kinship. There was a great deal in the background of their minds and memories that was very similar. They understand one another remarkably well. Very much better than a hobbit they would understand, said a dwarf or an orc. Or even an elf. Think of the riddles they both knew for one thing. Yes, said Frodo, though other folks besides hobbits ask riddles, and of much the same sort. And hobbits don't cheat. Gollum meant to cheat all the time. He was trying to put poor Bilbo off his guard, and I dare say it amused his wickedness to start a game which might end in proving him with an easy victim. But if he lost, would not hurt him. Only too true, I fear, said Gandalf, but there was something else in it, I think, which you do not see yet. Even Gollum was not wholly ruined. He had proved tougher than even one of the wise would have guessed, as a hobbit might. There was a little corner of his mind that was still his own, and the light came through it. Oi! Yo! Yo, Bitsley, thank you very much for the 4 months as an Optimus Prime. Kia ora, kia ora. Thank you very much. Aroha nui to you. Less than 3. Thank you. What's the rain? It's all good, man. You're here nonetheless. Okay, where are we? Shit. As through a chink in the dark, light out of the past, it was actually pleasant, I think, to hear a kindly voice again, bringing up memories of wind and trees and sun on the grass and such forgotten things. Hello, hi. But that, of course, would not only make the evil part of him angrier in the end, unless it could be conquered, unless it could be cured, Gandalf sighed. Alas, there is little hope of that for him. Yet not to hope? No, not though he possessed the ring so long, almost as far back as he can remember. For it was long since he had worn it much. In the black darkness it was seldom needed. Certainly it had never faded. He is thin and tough still, but the thing was eating up his mind, of course, and the torment had become almost unbearable. All the great secrets under the mountains had turned out to be just an empty night. There was nothing more to find out, nothing worth doing, only nasty, furtive eating and resentful remembering. He was altogether wretched. He hated the dark, and he hated the light more. He hated everything, and the ring most of all. What do you mean? Frodo said. Surely the ring was his precious and the only thing he cared for. But he hated it. Why didn't he get rid of it, or go and leave it? You ought to begin to understand, Frodo, after all he had heard, said Gandalf. He hated it, he loved it, as he hated and loved himself. He could not get rid of it, he had no will left in the matter. A ring of power looks after itself, Frodo. It may slip off treacherously, but its keeper never abandons it. At most, he plays with the idea of handing it on to someone else's care, and that only at an early stage, when it first begins to grip. But as far as I know, Bilbo alone in history has ever gone beyond playing, and really done it. He needed all my help, and even so, he would never have just forsaken it, or cast it aside. It was not Gollum, Frodo, but the ring itself that decided things. The ring left him. Damn. He was like, yeah, I'm over you now. Hey, bro, I just want to say amazing carvings you do as well. Oh, thank you, Positive. Cheers, my bro. Thank you, my bro. I appreciate the kind words, brother. Okay, where are we? What, just in time to meet Bilbo, said Frodo. Wouldn't an orc have suited it better? It is no laughing matter, said Gandalf. Not for you, it was the strangest event in the whole history of the ring so far. Bilbo's arrival just at that time and putting his hand on it blindly in the dark, there was more than one power at work. Frodo, the ring was trying to get back to its master. It had slipped from Isildur's hand and betrayed him, and when the chance came, it caught poor Deagle, and he was murdered. And after that, Gollum and I it had devoured him. It could make no further use of him. He was too small and mean. As long as it stayed with him, he would never leave his deep pool again. So now, when its master was awake once more and sending out his dark thought from Mirkwood, it abandoned Gollum, only to be picked up by one most likely person imaginable, Bilbo from the Shire. Behind it there was something else at work. Beyond any design of the Ringmaker, I can put it no plainer than by saying that Bilbo was meant to find the ring, and not by its maker. In which case you also were meant to have it, and that may be an encouraging thought. It is not, said Frodo, though I am not sure that I understand you. But how have you learned all this thing about the ring and about Gollum? Do you really know it all, or are you just guessing still? Gandalf looked at Frodo, and his eyes glinted. I knew much and I have learned much, he answered. But I am not going to give you an account of all my doings to you. The history of Elendil and Isildur, fuck, it's split up, I couldn't even read it properly. And the One Ring is known to all the wise. Your ring is shown to be that one ring by the fire writing alone, apart from any other evidence. And when did you discover that? Asked Frodo, interrupting. Just now, in this room, of course, answered the wizard sharply. But I expect to find it. I have come back from the dark journeys and long stretch to make the final test. It is the last proof, and all I know only too clear, making out Gollum's part and fitting it into the gap in the history required some thought. I may have started with guesses about Gollum, but I'm not guessing now. I know. I have seen him. You've seen Gollum? Exclaimed Frodo in amazement. Yes. The obvious thing to do, of course, is if one could. I tried long ago, but I have managed it at last. Then what happened after Bilbo escaped from him? Do you know that? Not so clearly. When I was told you when I have told you it was Gollum was willing to tell, though not, of course. And the way I have reported it, Gollum is a liar. And you may have sifted his words, for instance. He called the ring his birthday present, and he stuck to that. He said it came from his grandmother, who said lots of beautiful things about their kind, a ridiculous story. I have no doubt that Smeagol's grandmother was a matriarch, a great person in a way, but the talk of her possessing many elven rings was absurd. As for giving them away, it was a lie, but a lie with a grain of truth. Okay, I'm invested. The murder of Deagle haunted Gollum, and he had made up a defense, repeating it to his precious over and over again as he gnawed bones in the dark, until he almost believed it. It was his birthday. Deagle ought to have given the ring to him. It had obviously turned up just so as to be a present. It was a birthday present, and so on and on. I endured him as long as I could, but the truth was desperately important, and in the end I had to be harsh. I put the fear of fire on him and wrung the true story out of him. Damn! So he pretty much tortured old Smeagux. Bit by bit, together with much snivelling and snarling, he thought he was misunderstood and ill-used. But when he had last told me his history as far as the end of the riddled game and Bilbo's escape, he would not say no more, except in dark hints. Some other fear was on him greater than mine. He muttered that he was going to get his own back. People would see that he would withstand being kicked and driven into a hole and then robbed. Gollum had good friends now, good friends and very strong. They would help him. Baggins would pay for it. That was his chief thought. He hated Bilbo and he cursed his name. What is more, he knew where he came from. Oh, shit. But how did he find out? Asked Frodo. Well, as for the name, Bilbo very foolishly told Gollum himself, and after that it would not be difficult to discover his country. Once Gollum came out, oh yes, he came out. His longing for the One Ring proved stronger than his fear for the orcs, or even the light. After a year or two he left the mountains, you see. Though still bound by the desire of it, the ring was no longer devouring him. He began to revive a little. He felt old, terribly old, yet less timid, and he was mortally hungry. Light of the sun and moon he still feared and hated, and he always will, I think. But he was cunning. He found he could hide from daylight and moonshine, and make his way swiftly and softly by dead of night with the pale, cold eyes, and catch small, frightened or unwary things. He grew stronger and bolder with new food and new air. He found his way into Mirkwood, as one would expect. It's where you found him? Asked Frodo. I saw him there, answered Gandalf. But before that he had wandered far. Following Bilbo's trail was difficult to learn anything from him for certain, for his talk was constantly interrupted by curses and threats. What had it got in his pockets, he said. It was no precious little cheat, not a fair question. It cheated first. It did. It broke the rules. We ought to have squeezed it. Yes, precious, and we will. Precious. Damn, this dude was tweaking out. Yeah, I just need to go to the bathroom and blow my nose. True, so he pretty much like tracked down Gollum and he was following him that whole time. Oh, Gandalf's a bit of a dog, eh? That's pretty cool that, you learn different things from the book that aren't shown in the movies. Obviously, I've never read these before, guys. I will never claim that I'm a reader, alright? Never claim that I'm a reader. This is a sample of his talk. I do not suppose you want any more. I had weary days of it, but from hints dropped among the snarls I gathered that his padding feet had taken him at last to Esgaroth, and even to the streets of Dale, listening secretly and peering, while the news of the great events went far and wide in the wilderland, and many had heard Bilbo's name and knew where he came from. We made no secret of our return and journey to his home in the west. Gollum's sharp ears would soon learn what he wanted. Then why didn't he track Bilbo further? Asked Frodo. Why didn't he come to the Shire? Ah, said Gandalf, now we come to it. I think Gollum tried to. He set out and came back westward as far as the great river, but then he turned aside. He was not daunted by the distance, I'm sure. No, something else drew him away. So many friends think those that hunted for him. Oh, ding, sorry, the AI mod blocked your message, my bro, but I see you, my bro. I appreciate that, man. Thank you, brother. I hope you enjoy them. Oops, I've lost where I was. Shit, where was I? It's all good. How are you, bro? Oh my jeez. I've lost where I was. Uh-oh. Oh, I found it. The wood elves tracked him first, an easy task for them. For his trail was still fresh then, through Mirkwood, and back then it led them through, and they never caught him. Hey, what up, Razor? Cheer, my brother. How are you, my bro? How's the trip going? The wood was full of rumour of him, dreadful tales even amongst beasts and birds. The woodman said that there was some new terror abroad, a ghost that drank blood, okay. It climbed trees to find nests, it crept into holes to find the young, it slipped through windows to find cradles. But at the western edge of Mirkwood the trail turned away. It wandered off southwards and passed out through the wood elves' ken, and was lost. And then I made a great mistake, yes, Frodo, and not the first, though I fear it may prove the worst. I let the matter be. I let him go, for I had much else to think about at the time, and I still trusted Lord Saruman. Thank you for the follow, Brother Ding. Cheers, my bro. Morning once again, Vinny, if I haven't talked to you yet. Well, that was years ago. I have paid for it since with many dark and dangerous days. The trail was long cold when I looked up again after Bilbo left here, and my search would have been in vain, but for the help that I had from a friend, Aragorn, the greatest traveller and huntsman of his age in the world. Together we sought for Gollum down the whole length of the wilderland. Damn, so we got the Aragorn mention. Damn, okay. And without success, but at last, when I was given up the chase and turned to the other paths, Gollum was found. My friend returned out of great perils, bringing the miserable creature with him. What he had been doing he would not say. He only wept and called us cruel. With many a Gollum in his throat, and he would be pressed and when we pressed him, he would whine and cringe, and rubbed his long hands, licking his fingers, and as if he would pained him, as if he remembered some old torture. Good evening there, Picplosion. Kia ora. Hey, bro, I just want to say amazing carvings. Thank you, brother. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm keeping up with everyone. But I am afraid there's no possible doubt he had made his slow, sneaking way, step by step, mile by mile, south down at last to the land of Mordor. A heavy silence fell in the room. Frodo could hear his heart beating. Even outside everything seemed still. No sound of Sam's or his could now be heard. Yes, to Mordor, said Gandalf. Alas, Mordor draws all the wicked things, and the Dark Power was bending all its will to gather them there. The ring of the enemy would leave its mark, to leave him open to the summons, and all folks were whispering then of the new shadow in the south, and its hatred of the west. There were his fine new friends who would help him in his revenge. Wretched fool in the land, he would learn much. Too much for his comfort, and sooner or later, as he lurked in pride on the borders, he would be caught and taken for examination. That was the way of it, I fear. When he was found, he had already been there long, and was on his way back on some errand of mischief, but that does not matter much now. His worst mischief was done. Oh, that's when they were trying to... Where the hell's the ring, my bro? They're trying to get it out of him, eh? Yes, alas, his enemy had learned that the one has been found again. He knows where Isildur fell. He knows where Gollum found the ring. He knows that it is the great ring, for it gave long life. He knows that it is not one or three, for they have never been lost, and they endure no evil. He knows that it is not one of the 7 of the 9, and for they are all accounted for. He knows that this is the one, and he has at last heard, I think, of hobbits and the Shire. The Shire, he may be seeking for it now, but has not already found out where it lies. Indeed, Frodo. I fear that he may even think that the long unnoticed name of Baggins has become important. But this is terrible, cries Frodo, for worse than I imagined from the hints of warnings, O Gandalf. Best of friends, what am I to do? For now I am really afraid. What am I to do? What a pity that Bilbo did not stab the vile creature when he had the chance. Pity. It was pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy. Not to strike without need, as he had been well rewarded. Frodo, be sure that he took a little hurt from evil and escaped in the end, because he had began his ownership of the ring. So with pity, I am sorry, said Frodo, but I am frightened, and I do not feel any pity for Gollum. You have not seen him, Gandalf broke in. No, and I do not want to, said Frodo. I don't understand you. Do you mean you say that you and the elves have let him live on after all those horrible deeds? Now at any rate he is as bad as an orc, and just an enemy. He deserves death. Damn. Yo, what up, Moonstreams, and most likely March? How you doing? Deserves it? I dare say he does. Many of the lives deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then do not be too eager to deal out the death in judgment. For even the very wise cannot see all ends. I have not much hope that Gollum can be cursed before he dies, but there is a chance of it, and he is bound up with the fate of the ring My heart tells me that he has some part to play yet, for good or ill. What's up, Arjun? It's your brother? Before the end, and when that comes, the pity of Bilbo may rule the fate of many, yours not least. In any case, we do not kill him. He is very old and very wretched. The wood elves have him in prison, but they treat him with such kindness as they can find in their wise hearts. What's up, what's up, Pick? How you doing, brother? So the elves still have him like now. Interesting. Let you make you, said the wise wizard. Haven't you been listening to all that I've said? You are not thinking of what you are saying, but as for throwing it away, that was obviously wrong. These rings have a way of being found. In evil hands it might have done great evil. Worst of all, it might have fallen into the hands of the enemy. Indeed, it certainly would, for this is the one, and he is exerting all its power to find it or draw it out to himself. Of course, my dear Frodo, it was dangerous for you, and that has troubled me deeply. But there was so much at stake, and I had to take some risk. Though even when I was far away, there has never been a day when the Shire was not being guarded by watchful eyes. As long as you never used it, I did not think the ring would have any lasting effect on you. Not for evil, not at any rate for a long time. And you must remember that 9 years ago when I just saw you, or when I last saw you, I still knew little for certain. Good, and you, yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Bit of a reading stream, which we haven't done in a while, and yet here we are. Here we are, my bro. But why not destroy it, as you should have been doing long ago, cried Frodo again. If you had warned me or even sent me a message, I would have done away with it. Would you? Would you do that? Have you ever tried? Sup, Jizz? No, but I suppose one could hammer it to melt it. Try, said Gandalf. Try now. Frodo drew the ring out of his pocket again and looked at it. It now appeared plain and smooth, without a mark or device that he could see. The gold looked very fair and pure, and Frodo thought how rich and beautiful was its colours, how perfect was its roundness. It was an admirable thing and altogether precious. When he took it out, and he had intended to fling it from him into the very hottest part of the fire, but he found now that he could not do so, not without a great struggle. He weighed the ring in his hand, hesitating and forcing himself to remember all that Gandalf had told him, and with an effort of will he made a movement as if it was cast away, but he found that he had put it back in his pocket. Far out. So it was starting to influence him already. Gandalf laughed grimly. You see, already you too, Frodo, cannot easily let it go, nor will to damage it, and it could not make you except by force, which would break your mind. But as for breaking the ring, force is useless. Even if you took it and struck it with a heavy sledgehammer, it would make no dent in it. It cannot be unmade by your hands or by mine. Your small fire, of course, would not melt any ordinary gold. This ring has already passed through it unscathed, and even unheated, but there is no smith's forge in the Shire that could change it at all. Not even the anvils and furnaces of the dwarves could do that. It has been said that the dragon fire could melt and consume the rings of power, but there is not now any dragon left on the earth in which the old fire is hot enough. Nor was there ever any dragon, not even a Calagon the Black, who could have harmed the one ring, the ruling ring, for that was made by Sauron himself. That's the one that's like bigger than like 10 frickin' mountains, eh? That dragon. First experience this, people are normally playing games and stuff. I wish I could find more people doing this. Oh, what's up, Blue Snow? Yeah, so reading streams is not normally my thing. I normally do wood carving. Wood carving is normally what I do, but I couldn't do that today, so yeah, we're back in the books, man. Back in the books. Yeah, back in the books, my bro. Where were we? Oh, there. There is only one way to find the cracks of doom in the depths of Orodruin, the fire mountain, and cast the ring in there. If you really wish to destroy it, to put it beyond the grasp of the enemy forever. I do really wish you destroy it, cried Frodo. Oh well, to have it destroyed. Oh really? Oh bro, if he's enjoy it. Ankala made Smaug look like pup. Yeah, like like the shit under his claw, I bet. Which is more of a fair description. Such questions cannot be answered, said Gandalf. You may be sure that it was not for any merit and others do not possess. Not for power or wisdom at any rate. But you have been chosen, and you must therefore use such strength and heart and wits as you have. But I have so little of any of these things. You are wise and powerful. Will you not take the ring? No, cried Gandalf, springing to his feet. With that power, I should have power too great and terrible, and over me the ring would gain a power still greater and more deadly. His eyes flashed and his face was lit as by a fire within. Do not tempt me, for I do not wish to become the Dark Lord himself. Yet the way of the ring to my heart is by pity for weakness, and the desire of strength to do good. Do not tempt me. I dare not take it, not even to keep safe, unused. The wish to wield it would be too great for my strength. I shall have such need of it. Great perils lie before me. He went to the window and drew aside the curtains and the shutters. Sunlight streamed back again into the room. Sam passed along the path whistling, and now, said the wizard, turning back to it. Oh, so what? They were having this yarn in the daytime. True. Frodo, the decision lies with you. But I will always help you, he said. His hand on Frodo's shoulder. I will help you bear this burden as long as it is yours to bear. But we must do something soon. The enemy is moving. There was a long silence. Gandalf sat down once again and puffed at his pipe, as if lost in thought. His eyes seemed closed, but under the lids he was watching Frodo intently. Frodo gazed fixedly at the red embers of the hearth until they filled all his vision, and he seemed to be looking down in profound wells of fire. He was thinking of the fabled cracks of doom and terror of the fiery mountains. Well, said Gandalf at last, what are you thinking about? Have you decided what to do? No, answered Frodo, coming back to himself out of the darkness and finding to his surprise that it was not dark, and that out of the window he could see the sunlight garden, or perhaps, yes, as far as I understand what you have said, I suppose I must keep the ring and guard it at least for the present, whatever it may do to me. Whatever it may do, it will be slow to evil. It will keep if you keep it with that purpose, said Gandalf. I hope so, said Frodo, but I hope that you may find some other better keeper soon. But in the meanwhile, it seems that I am in huge danger, a danger to all that live near me. I cannot keep the ring and stay here. I ought to leave Begin, leave the Shire, Leave everything and go away, he sighed. I should like to save the Shire if I could, though there have been times that I thought the inhabitants too stupid and dull for words, and I have felt that the earthquake or an invasion of dragons might be good for them. But I don't feel like that now. I feel as long as the Shire lies behind, safe and comfortable, I shall find wandering more bearable. I shall know that somewhere there is a firm foothold if my feet cannot stand there again. Of course, have sometimes thought of going away, but I imagine that is kind of a holiday, a series of adventures like Bilbo's, or better ending in peace. But this would mean exile, a flight from danger into danger, drawing in after me, and I suppose I must go alone. If I am to do that and save the Shire, but I feel very small and very uprooted as well. Desperate, the enemy is so strong and terrible. Oh, jeez. He did not tell Gandalf, but as he was speaking, a great desire to follow Bilbo flamed up in his heart. To follow Bilbo, and even, perhaps, to find him again. It was so strong that it overcame his fear. He could almost have run out there and then down the road without his hat, and Bilbo had done on a similar morning long ago. My dear Frodo, exclaimed Gandalf, hobbits really are amazing creatures, as I have said before. You want to go in the room? Hold on, chat. Yo, wheelchair, kia ora. Afraid I can't stay. Morning doctor's appointment. Oh, kaite pai, kaite pai. Thank you very much for the tier 3 for 59 months, my bro. Absolutely crazy, my bro. Thank you very, very much. Go to your doctor's appointment, my bro. You're all good. Thank you, thank you, thank you, brother. Okay, where are we? Oh, here. As I have said before, you can learn all that there is to know about their ways in a month. And yet after 100 years they can still surprise you at a pinch. I hardly expected to get such an answer, not even from you. But Bilbo made no mistake in choosing his heir, though he little thought of how important it would prove. I am afraid you are right. The ring will not be able to stay hidden in the Shire much longer. As for your own sake as well as for others, you will have to go, and leave the name Baggins behind you. The name will not be safe to have outside the Shire or in the wild. I will give you a travelling name now. When you go, go under Mr. Underhill. Mr. Underhill. But I don't think you need to go alone. Not if you know of anyone you can trust, and who would be willing to go by your side, and that you would be willing to take into unknown perils. But if you look for a companion, be careful in choosing, and be careful of what you say, and even to your closest friends. The enemy has many spies and many ways of hearing. Suddenly he stopped and listened. Frodo became aware that all was very quiet inside and out. Gandalf crept to the side of the window, then with a dart he sprang to the sill and thrust a long arm and outwards. There was a squawk, and up came Samwise Gamgee, curly head hauled by one ear. Well, 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 bless my beard, said Gandalf. Sam Gamgee, is it? And what may you be doing? Lord bless you, Mr. Gandalf, sir, said Sam. Nothing, leastways I was just trimming the grass border under the window. If you follow me. He picked up his shears and exhibited them as evidence. I don't, said Gandalf grimly. If it is some time when I last heard of the sound of your shears. How long have you been eavesdropping? Eavesdropping, sir? I don't follow. Begging your pardon, that ain't no eaves and begging, that's a fact. Don't be a fool. What have you heard? And why did you listen? Gandalf's eyes flushed and his brows stuck up like bristles. Mr. Frodo, sir, cried cried Sam squeaky. Don't let him hurt me, sir. Don't let him turn me into anything unnatural. My old dad would take on so. I mean no harm. On my honor, sir. He won't hurt you, said Frodo, hardly able to keep from laughing, although he himself startled and rather puzzled. He knows as well as I do that you mean no harm, but just you up and answer his question straight away. Well, sir, said Sam, a little. I heard a deal that I didn't really understand, and an enemy, and the rings, and Mr. Bobo, sir, and the dragons, and the fiery mountain, and the elves, sir, and I listened because I couldn't help myself, if you know what I mean. Lord bless me, sir, but no, I do love tales of sword, and I believe them too, whatever Ted may. Whatever Ted may, says Elf, sir. I would nearly dearly love to see them. Couldn't you take me to the elves, sir, when you go? Suddenly Gandalf laughed. Come inside, he shouted, and put both of them in his arms. He lifted the astonished Sam, shears, grass clippings, and all. Right through the window stood him on the floor. Take you to the elves, eh? He said, eyeing Sam closely, but with a smile flickering on his face. So you heard that? So you heard that Miss Frodo is going anyway? I did, sir. That's why I choked. Which you heard seemingly I tried not to. But it has burst out of me. I was so upset. It can't be helped, Sam, said Frodo sadly. He suddenly realized that flying from the Shire would mean more painful partings than merely saying farewell to the family comforts of old Bag End. I shall have to go, and there he looked hard at Sam. If you really care about me, you'll keep that dead secret. See? If you don't, even if you breathe a word of what you have heard, then I hope Gandalf will turn you into a spotted toad and fill the garden full of grass snakes. Sam fell to his knees trembling. Get up, Sam, said Gandalf. I've thought of something better for you than that. Something to shut your mouth and punish you properly for listening. You shall go away with Mr. Frodo. Me, sir, cried Sam, springing up like a dog invited for a walk. Me go and see the elves and all? Hooray! He shouted, and then burst into tears. Chapter 2. Done and dusted. So the cogs and the wheels are starting to roll now. So they're starting to get ready to pretty much go on their journey that we all know they take. Bro, it's actually pretty cool, eh? I think that's one thing that I'm starting to like about the books, that you see, or you get the POVs that you wouldn't normally get from the, like in the movies. And I'm starting to appreciate those quite a lot too. So, in saying that, looking forward to getting more of that. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be really cool. Man, that's crazy. That is actually crazy what's going on in the story. And how much they don't have in the movie as well. Like actual, if you look into it. Alright guys, that is going to be me for the evening. I am going to dip to bed because it is 12 o'clock. It is 12 o'clock in the evening. Thank you very much for tuning in. I can't stream Whakairo tomorrow, okay? I do apologize. Usually during the day, my mum would watch the baby, but she will most likely be going to a funeral tomorrow. So for now, have a good one, GG's, Twitch, Kick, and YouTube. I appreciate you for tuning in for our reading stream, and we will progress more through it as we go along, okay? Peace out, look after one another, and GG, see you tomorrow, eh? Cheers.